I was 10 years old, I think. My dad got a semi-truck to haul hay. I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Growing up on a farm, Mark Drubay started driving tractors and trucks as soon as he could reach the pedals.
I think if Norman Rockwell was going to paint a picture of a childhood, he would have painted mine.
One day, Mark went with his dad on a trip in their semi about 75 miles away.
I was probably 8th grade.
On the way back, Mark's dad said he was tired and invited Mark to drive.
And he very well may have been asleep, and that was the first time on the highway that I remember driving that truck, and that just fueled my fire. I love trucks. The first semi I owned, I was partners with my brother. We bought this truck together.
The buyers, they're buying a home, but they're not on their own. It's the buyers. First Colony will help them through their loan. The Buyers.
The Buyers is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Hey, Jason, I wanted to talk to you about First Colony.
Ooh, is that like a new video game?
No, it's a mortgage company that's going to help us with our home loan.
Oh. Hooray!
Hey, don't complain. They're actually pretty cool. Here, check it out.
First Colony Mortgage has been helping people finance homes since 1984, helping thousands of happy home buyers, the #1 mortgage company in their market. Award-winning blah, blah, blah. Who cares? What does this mean to me?
It means that they're really experienced and they're going to help us through the whole process. And let's face it, we, and by we I mean mainly you, have no idea what we're doing. So first things first, looks like we need to download their app, Mortgage Me. Can you do that?
But my phone's all the way over there. Fine.
What are you doing?
Just writing the screenplay for my big hit action movie, Initial Disclosures. He knew too much.
Good luck with that. And actually, funny you should mention initial disclosures, because that's actually the next step in our First Colony application process.
Yeah, well, Tom Cruise doesn't want to star in that.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to star in your movie either, so let's get this done. Why don't you pull up on your laptop?
What about the app?
You can use either one. And they said to think about initial disclosure as a kind of rough draft.
Just like my screenplay. He was a man on the run. Sorry. Okay, what do I do?
Well, it says timing is important, so we need to get on this as quick as we can.
Hey, have you heard anything from First Colony about our home appraisal?
I don't know. Can't we just use Zillow? I saw it on TV and it sounded fun. Zillow. Sounds like a delicious pastry. Unless it's Godzilla. Then it's like a giant monster lizard who attacks cities and crushes overpriced 2 bedrooms. Watch out! Godzilla's coming! And he's attacking that new trendy area with the hip coffee shops and eateries. Roar!
Are you done?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Yeah, just keep an eye out for that home appraisal because it'll come from a third party.
A third party? I wasn't even invited to the first 2.
Did you hear that? Never mind. Anyway, we'll get an email from a third party, and it's important. We should open it.
Now, hear me out. What if we convert our new basement into a guitar museum?
Okay, are you done?
Oh, you can't stop the rock, babe.
All right. First of all, the only guitar you play is air guitar. And second of all, we're not going to have a new basement if we're spending money left and right on stupid stuff. We're in the underwriting phase right now with First Colony Mortgage.
Underwriting. Is that where we sit under a table and journal?
There it is again. Are you not hearing that?
Natalie, focus. Now, I want you to explain to me what underwriting is as if I were an idiot.
Okay, I'll try to imagine that.
Thank you.
Underwriting is the phase where they review and verify all of the important details.
I love this house so much.
Yeah, even without the guitar museum, it's pretty cool. Quick question, though.
How am I going to pay for it?
I hope you mean the method and not that you lost your job, because I cannot live with your parents again.
Yeah, the method. You know, like how am I going to pay the monthly for the mortgage, which I learned has a T in it. Mortgage.
Well, I'm glad you learned something. Yeah, the mortgage servicer will contact us individually about how to make our monthly payment. Don't worry, it's totally normal. Oh, and there might be some things on top of that, but don't panic.
Like what?
Well, for one thing, property tax. We'll be getting a property tax notice.
Although I have experienced many challenges and trials in my life, I have always tried to remain faithful to my Heavenly Father and to the covenants I have made with Him. Obedience to God has brought many blessings to our family. Someday, when I meet God, I would like to thank Him for the many experiences I've had in my life and all the love that He has given to me.
Fred came into this world on the 11th of February, 1936. He was raised in a small home on Gothic Avenue in Van Nuys, California. In those days, it was considered country living. They had a large garden and raised all types of animals. Fred cared for and loved them all, except for the goose.
I had gone out to feed the geese and the chickens, and I was coming back to the house, and this gander chased me down. I mean, he had his wings flapping, and he was really going after me, and he knocked me down. And I was on my back, and here he was.
When I grew up as a young boy, all I wanted to do was play football at the University of Utah. I didn't even want to play in the NFL. I wanted to play at the University of Utah. That's where I wanted to be. That dream was realized. And it was awesome and fun, and got a Sugar Bowl ring out of it. A few years after I played, I started getting headaches a lot. From there, started getting some depression. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't really know how to deal with it. I didn't know what it was, honestly, until about a year and a half, 2 years later, I started to open up to my family and talk to them about it. And to be honest, no one knew what to do. My wife and I decided to get a divorce, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I'd gone to different clinics and different therapies, and tried to seek help, and eventually I just became hopeless and intended to take my life. I'd parked my car on the side of the road. It was right at the base of Mount Olympus. You know, you think about how awesome that is, that, I was sitting there facing this mountain and, looking at it like with just no hope. And to my back is this whole opportunity of, and just this whole, landscape and just this beautiful, valley.
Cindy Gooch. So my story takes place in 2015. Earlier that year, my husband and I had adopted a 16-year-old daughter out of the foster care system. So Lauren was to be our 7th child. So our lives were really busy and really chaotic. And that same year, during that year, I started to have a growing discontentment in my own self directed toward my husband. And even though we had this beautiful family, I was frustrated and angry with him. Fortunately for me and our family, along with our new daughter, came the missionaries. So at the beginning, I pretty much ignored the missionaries. I won't lie. Our daughter was not familiar with the LDS Church. She was from another state, and so they were there for her to teach her about the church that our family went to. So I just did my thing, and the weeks rolled by. But because God has his hand in all things, he sent a trio of elders that would not let me ignore them. And these elders, they pretty much insisted I participate. So I started praying really diligently.
One of the greatest challenges I've faced in my life is extending forgiveness. I probably spent half my life trying to work through and forgive those who had perpetrated harm against me as a child. And I knew I had to forgive because the Lord said, to be forgiven, you are required to forgive. So I knew I had to do it. And I, fasted, prayed, went to therapy, read books, you name it. Spent half my life. And finally, we moved to St. George a little over 30 years ago. And at that point, I just gave up and I told the Lord, I can't do it. I've done everything that I could, but I can't change the way I feel. A knock came at the door. I opened the door, and this woman came in whom I had never met. And she came in and she sat down and she shared with me in intimate detail her journey to healing and forgiveness. She said, this is what you do. She said, you state the person's name and then you say, I forgive you for everything you have ever said, done, thought, or felt, intentionally or unintentionally, that has hurt me or anyone that I love, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. She said, you do that. And you may have to do it more than once. You do it as many times as you need, but it will happen. Well, I knew the Lord had sent her to my door. So as soon as she left, I did it. I did exactly what she said. And I experienced the miracle of forgiveness. It was almost immediate, and it was amazing. But I feel like the hardest person that I've had to forgive is myself. Last Saturday, as a matter of fact, it occurred to me, I can insert my own name in this forgiveness script. And I did. Melinda Sutner, I forgive you for everything you've ever said, done, thought, or felt, intentionally or unintentionally, that has hurt me or anyone else that I love, in the name of Jesus Christ. And immediately, I experienced the miracle of forgiveness on the deepest level I have ever experienced. And my burden was lifted.
Yeah, Roger. We're going to be going Ketchikan to Rogers Bay, Walker Cove, Mirror Lake. We're going to Ketchikan. Give us 2.5 hours and 3 hours of fuel. We get like 100 150 to 200 inches of annual rainfall here. Wow. So this is like one of the wettest places on Earth.
Like most places in Alaska, the only way in or out of Ketchikan is by boat or plane. So I grabbed a ride with local bush pilot David Doyle.
We're flying over the Tongass National Forest. It's the largest national forest in the United States. It's about 22 million acres.
Alaska is more than 2 times larger than Texas, and you cannot drive a car to 82% of its communities.
Everything's situated on the water, so these float planes are the way to get around, you know. They're like the taxis, the school buses, the freight haulers, and we have different size airplanes for different missions, so it's like everybody needs to be accessed by the water.
And David's fleet does it all, from sightseeing to government contracts with fish and wildlife.
It's like getting up every day and go playing, you know, and have a cool hot rod like this and, you know, wilderness to go play in and show it to people and do all these cool jobs. It's like couldn't get any better.
I'm gonna slow her down just a little, Dave.
We've seen it happen many times. Neon trees, Imagine Dragons. Tonight, the line behind me is actually for the national parks.
As the band readies to take the stage at Velour,
express our gratitude for all that we have.
The excitement builds among the lucky few hundred who got tickets.
This is a show that sold out within a week.
I honestly don't know if there's a scene quite like Provo anywhere else. There's just such like a tight community here.
It's like a family.
In Provo, Utah, the owner of Velour, Corey Fox, is something of a kingmaker.
He's just been encouraging us to push it more and more and more, and kind of been a mentor.
As the national parks gain fans, they have dreams of being the next national sensation.
Das Landschaft ist wie kein anderes Dodom. Translated, this area is like no other. 43% of people in this community speak something other than English in their home. And that language is Pennsylvania Dutch, which is a dialect of German that we've used all our years.
The Amish almost never agree to be on camera, but Marcus Yoder agreed to give us this rare look inside when he learned what the story trek was all about.
The Amish are a culturally different people, a subculture within the larger American culture, but they view themselves as just average people.
Marcus grew up Amish and is now Mennonite, a close cousin to the Amish.
They don't think automobiles are sinful, but they say, well, so if we had a car, we'd go away every night and we wouldn't sit at the supper table and have dinner together.
Marcus says it's all about priorities.
The Amish have chosen to live with family and their faith as a central focus in their decision making.
Larry Fulmer comes from a family of boxers. His dad and 2 uncles were professionals, and his uncle Gene was world champion.
We couldn't go anywhere as kids, especially when they were really popular, without people lining up and getting a picture taken and getting autographs.
When the 3 brothers retired, they opened a gym with one special purpose.
It's a place for refuge for some of those kids.
Good. I feel it's kept me out of trouble. But I feel like if I wasn't here boxing, I'd probably be doing things I shouldn't be doing.
Manuel is just one of the hundreds of young men whose lives have found new direction at Fulmer's gym.
Those are my goals, to be on that wall one day.
We've seen kids come in that have told us stories that, hey, if it wasn't for you, I would be in jail now.
The Fulmers helped put South Jordan on the map and hundreds of lives back on track.
If we can help somebody, an at-risk youth, then we feel like we've accomplished something.
Luau is a festivity.
It's something that you're there to celebrate life, celebrate family, celebrate friends.
The Smith family has been celebrating for more than 50 years.
It is a family business. We have 3 generations working in the business as well. So thanks for taking a chance. Come into a luau with the name Smith. Yeah.
Aloha. Aloha.
Once greeted, guests are treated to a tour of the Smith family's incredible gardens.
Just sit back and relax.
The luau is held in a 30-acre botanical garden. So when you first get here, you have time to take a tram tour around the 30 acres. Then you have more time to go walk around the gardens, take more pictures with your family. And then we start off the evening with our first event, which is the imu ceremony.
The pig is cooked in an underground oven, the same way their Hawaiian ancestors did it. And then it's time for the feasting portion of the evening. No excuse for going away hungry.
It's a great place to live. You enjoy the outdoors. If you don't like the outdoors in Maine, you're probably living in the wrong state.
The scenery is simply stunning, with more than 3,000 islands and 5,000 miles of coastline.
It's got a lot of variety. There's, on the coast, there's commercial fishing. You go north and you're looking at lumber, potatoes, blueberries.
Dave Merriman is a lobster boat captain. More than 90% of the nation's lobsters come from Maine.
I think that's my favorite part about Maine is the community that we have here. It's a fishing community.
That fishing community has been a big part of Dave's life for as long as he can remember.
I grew up on my father's boat when I was a kid, and then as soon as I could, I got my own skiff and hauled traps. The mornings are my favorite time of the day. You just get on the boat. My helper and I have a little pact where we don't say anything for the first hour or so.
This part of the country, there's not a whole lot of good jobs. And eventually I wanted to live up here.
When Vance Morrill couldn't find the right job, he made the right job.
We were trying to think of something we could do to support our family. We tried caskets and we tried cedar chests and everything. And finally started making these flutes just for fun at first.
The flutes were an instant hit. The orders poured in. Sweet music to Vance and his family.
First we built the shop and just started making flutes. And when we realized Highway 12 was so busy between the parks, we thought we might as well make a store too, so we built the gift shop.
Vance has always loved woodworking, but never dreamed he'd be doing something music related.
I've never been musical. None of my family's been musical.
But he was creative and found what allowed him to live and work in the place he loves. And who can blame him?
We don't make a lot of money, but there's a lot of stuff that's worth more than money.
This beautiful home is something Christina and her husband Scott thought was unattainable just a few years ago.
This is an amazing upgrade. Living conditions for you guys.
Oh yeah, we lived in a duplex the whole time we were in Bear Lake.
Yeah.
That was 1,100 square feet. And then we lived in the shop and the camper and then the barn.
Scott brought his family to Bear Lake when the economy was great and he needed something different.
So we kind of felt like we were going to go to the rural area somewhere and take a shot at church again.
He started a new construction business, went back to church, and life started to get harder and harder.
My 2 youngest siblings have cleft lip and palates. And Cameron was 2 and Allie was 3. And they had multiple surgeries already, and we were drowning in medical debt.
Miranda was a teenager as she watched this story of trials and eventually miracles.
About to be on the street and starving.
The recession's taking our business and our income away.
Scott somehow landed some jobs, but quickly realized no matter how hard he worked, 14, 15-hour days, he couldn't make it work.
I remember coming home And I'd sit in the truck outside the house because I didn't want to go inside. Because I was realizing that when you try your absolute hardest and you do your absolute best, sometimes it's just not enough. In my case, it wasn't even close.
Scott leaned on his new devotion to God and prayed for months without an answer.
Starting to think that you can't leave me here like this. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do.
On one of the countless hospital visits for their daughter's medical procedures, Scott finally got an answer.
Standing in the hall, for some reason there was nobody around. It's because it's a pretty busy place, but there wasn't anybody around. And it was like a bolt of lightning. And it was one word, and all I heard was give.
He pondered on that for a couple of weeks.
We were back down there, standing in the same hallway. You need to give here. As clear as I could hear. I remember thinking, I don't have any money.
But he figured out what he was supposed to do. What was the answer to his prayers? Something that couldn't possibly help his family.
Give. You need to give here. You need to give the best of you. The best that you have to offer. And I'm a healthy guy. I've been sick 4 or 5 times in my life.
So Scott signed up to be what is called a Good Samaritan organ donor. Christina had no idea until after Scott agreed to donate a kidney. How did you feel about that?
I actually really wanted to do it with him. And I felt really strongly that we should do that.
And that's just the kind of people the Livingstons are. But Christina was tested and was not a candidate. Scott learned he was a universal donor.
And that one hit me. Because at that point I knew that that's what I was supposed to do. And I remember I cried all the way home in the car by myself, thinking, I figured it out.
Scott went to the hospital 2 days before his kidney would be harvested.
Then she asked me, she's like, so, do you want to meet him? And you could tell that she had a lot of anticipation. And I hadn't even thought for a second about who might get a kidney. This was totally me, totally my problem, totally my solution.
Meanwhile, the recipient, his family, the entire surgical and nursing team was in the other room, hoping Scott would say yes.
So I go in there and there's this 5'3", barely 100 pounds, young individual standing there, bawling his eyes out, all choked up and can't believe his day has arrived.
Marco Juarez was a teenager when his kidneys simply stopped growing and then failed. He had been on dialysis for 3 years.
He just couldn't hardly say anything, and I remember all of a sudden I felt like I was 10 feet tall. I hadn't felt like that in years. I felt like I had won the Super Bowl. And so I just grabbed him and I gave him a big hug and I just said, you're gonna be okay, dude. You're gonna be okay. I can do this.
And suddenly it became about someone else, the miracle of life Scott was giving to Marco, who has become a husband and father and Scott's close friend.
I now started my own little family. I was able to get married. Scott was at my wedding. It was amazing. Now I have 2 children. Just things that I couldn't do back then that I can do now because I feel like this kidney, like he did. One thing that he did, it changed my whole life.
Marco will never forget the moment Scott walked in that room at the hospital.
I was speechless. I just started crying because here's this man that I don't know that's gonna save my life. Nothing was offered to him to give me his kidney. He did it from the bottom of his heart.
But you also had faith that this would help you and your family out, somehow, financially.
Yeah, I prayed for a solution to that specific problem, and that's the only thing that came. was, go do this.
And that makes no sense.
And it makes no sense. It makes no sense at all.
But spiritual things don't often make sense.
Right, yeah, you can't explain it logically. You know, some atheist accountant could figure out where the money came from based on the jobs that we got and this and that and the other, but I wouldn't have been standing there with the vigor and the tenacity to go for it the way that I did had I not gone through that experience. And that came from God. You know? I have no doubt.
I feel like it's a miracle. I mean, Scott has told me his side of the story and how we kind of met in the middle, you know, after donating, but just his story in general is pretty amazing on, you know, something or hearing a voice telling him to donate. It gives me goosebumps.
My dad's thing is, who is my brother?
And the answer is everyone. Scott says he feels healthier. His family is better off financially. And it's because he did what he needed to do for his brother, a man he didn't know.
It's not about a kidney so much as it's about you probably don't have all the pieces you need to build your puzzle, but you have a few that can fill someone else's. And I think God put us here in such a way that we have to share with each other for this to work.
That includes Scott sharing this story, which he says is more painful than giving a kidney.
You know, the person that I am wants to hide and not say anything, you know, and I really have a hard time. But I'm glad that you guys came here. I think it was a place you're supposed to end up because, you know, it helped me get it out there.
My story is I'm 60. I started singing professionally when I was 16.
I got a sunroof top, but it's all torn up and tattered.
Blair Clark isn't just an amazing singer, he teaches others how to become the same.
Fell in love with a beautiful woman, and we opened up a school over here, and we teach kids how to sing, and then we have a performance venue, and music's been my life.
He also uses music to give back. I only met him because he was trying to give me a flyer for a fundraiser.
When I lost my sister, I decided I was gonna make a difference, because she always did, and we always did those things together. So I started Friends Helping Friends.
Children who've able to undergo surgeries to better their lives, helping them emotionally to get over recoveries when emotionally they wouldn't be able to otherwise.
Erica is one of Blair's students.
How sweet the sound.
She's also his daughter and manager of the school.
Just an incredible person. Great heart, huge heart, and a lot of fun.
He's incredibly talented, amazingly successful, and he's got a great family. His life has been blessed. It's hard to believe that Blair once tried to end it all.
If there's anything lower than a bottom, I hit it.
But when Blair first started out, potential mega stardom was very close.
When I got out of the Army, those guys, I joined them.
What was the band name?
Sunlight and Company.
Sunlight and Company.
And then I traveled around and different bands and hung out with Jay Leno and Al Jarreau and Yolanda Adams. Different people, that's Evelyn Champagne King. Wow. So I've done a couple projects with different people, but
the limited fame, the money, and the lifestyle made Blair his own worst enemy.
For a while, I lived in LA, lived in Santa Barbara. I came very close to getting a record deal, blew it. So not showing up for interviews, showing up late, showing up loaded.
But that might have saved your life.
Kind of a weird paradigm, but yeah, probably.
Blair says he couldn't have handled the money. As it was, the money he did make was all gone, blown looking for that next fix.
So I was just literally homeless.
Blair found a friend to stay with and do drugs with. He then decided to get away from everything, forever, by taking his life.
I got in the tub, and all I remember is this little 11-year-old boy found me laying on the bathroom floor. And I heard him say, "Mommy," and that was it. I passed out. Next thing I knew, the paramedics were putting blood plasma or whatever it is to, because I remember him saying there's 3 units of blood in the tub, and I don't know how much on the floor. We don't know if this guy's gonna make it.
Blair pulled through but went back to drugs and was kicked out of a homeless shelter because of it.
Because a drug dealer who I owed money to was chasing me, trying to stab me with a kitchen knife or something, I don't know what. And they kicked me out. They said, listen, this is not a safe environment for our residents.
After getting kicked out of another shelter, Blair spent the night walking in the snow until he could no longer bear to walk.
I went to a 7-Eleven and I was sitting like this on a cooler, just letting my feet dangle, because every time I took a step, it felt like I was being stabbed in the feet. And this Indian guy who was the owner of the 7-Eleven said, you can't stay here, I'll call the police. And I said, you need to call the police because I'm not leaving.
Life can change in an instant. This was the instant that changed Blair's.
I remember sitting in the back of that police car and saying, God, if you will take this from me, I will never do it again. That was the last I had ever done anything.
And that was 28 years ago.
Wish I could start again. What I know now, wish I knew then. I try to talk to my kids, my students, not just my children, about some of my experience. I've shared more with you today than I've shared at all. And living in Carmel and living in suburbs, you own 2 businesses. There's just so much you can talk about publicly, but there's so much I've wanted to do.
More recently, Blair has felt he needs to do more than just his foundation to help people, but use his story to help people overcome addiction.
Because it's achievable. It's something that can be done. Not just survival, not just getting by, but you can have your goals and your dreams.
Can you believe your life now?
No, I can't. I thank God every day.
He's had a really long road, but I'm really proud of everything that he's accomplished, and I think God wanted him here because he knew he had a lot to give. And my dad is not one to only receive at all. I think God knew that he was going to be able to give back.
Through the grace of God and through a lot of support, we learned to change our life around. I got the blues.
Eric is amazing, Blair is amazing, and he is right.